Lam Research, I've been tracking because that's one of the stocks that I bought into. The year to date, it's up nicely, 12%. It's seen really good extreme volatility. It just up, down, but it had a nice 5-day, I think. Yeah, well, sort of. You see, it's only 1.7, but the stock jumped. I think it was on Thursday's trading. It jumped like 7-8%. It was really nice to see because they had very solid earnings. Very solid. They're showing nice growth, 16% growth. And that was in combination with ASML, had a positive earnings. So what they're showing is that, semiconductors, and of course, the semiconductors that are getting a lot of attention are the, most expensive ones from NVIDIA. And NVIDIA charges like $30,000 to $60,000 per unit. That's a lot of money. While a car has, I don't know, 50 to 100 different chips, right? Like Scott bought a new car. His car probably has 100 chips because it's electric. Some of these chips are like $1, $5, $10, right? It's not like $30,000. So Lam Research, they're providing the machinery and the materials, whether that company that, downstream like ESM is manufacturing $10 chips or $30 chips, $30,000 chips. So that volume is what is going to make Lam and ASML make their demand go to the positive. So that's what they cited, is they have good growth in volumes. And I think, did somebody have a question?
I accidentally hit the raise hand.
No
I
problem.
meant to put thumbs up.
So Lam showed good numbers and they have a good forecast. That was very good. The other fundamentals that I saw even before the earnings were good. Their free cash flow is recovering. We'll take a look at the quarterly in a second. Gross margin of 47%. Looks good. So they're growing. Now let's take a look at the free cash flow. And that is quarterly, sorry. Let me look at the annual. So free cash flow annually right there at $4 billion. Man, that's a good number. So Lam Research had a good earnings. When we look at the stock over the past year, they were really sold off, right? They were sold off, and I thought discounted nicely. Boy, there's a lot of volatility in the semiconductor space right now. It goes up and down. But this one I thought was discounted. Even though over the 1 year, you're kind of close to even, although you lost a little money if you invested a year ago. When I look at the value of this stock, I still think the stock, based on the most current stock price, is discounted by 20%. And I think I'm up on the stock like 10% in a short period of time. So it's been a good stock. Go ahead, Scott.
So I just was curious if you've also looked into KLA, which used to be known as KLA Tencor, but I guess that's one of the main competitors. And it's just be interesting comparison to me because their stock has, I mean, if you look at even a 5-year, it's just been up and to the right for the most part. I mean, I have a suspicion maybe they're not undervalued. Maybe they're more fairly priced.
When I looked at Lam, and I looked at ASML, and I thought Lam provided a better proposition to me, and so I started buying into it. But let's take a look at KLA, see what they've got. So this is where I'm at. It's based on free cash flow and their earnings per share. I'm gonna, it's risen. I think it's going in the right direction. If we see some volatility, meaning like all these negative stories, see how the stock's down in pre-market. These negative stories can cause Lam to have a lower price this week and next week. I'm going to be buying shares. When would I sell Lam Research? This one here, if it reached like 10% overpriced, I'd probably sell. These guys are not going to be like up and to the right. You see how they have semiconductor is cyclical. It goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down. So it'd probably go up, come down. So I'd probably be wise in, if anything, just selling some stock. If it reached maybe a stock price of 20%, this thing would go up to 96, and maybe if it got to like $105, $110 per share, I'd probably sell 25% of the stock shares and just take some of the gain. So that's one you asked about, Tomas. Any thoughts on it?
And no, thank you. Okay, I'm going to keep buying. So let's see now.
So, so just remember that, so this is my investing approach. The thought that I would leave you with is some of these stocks don't go up forever and you have to monitor it. It's like, maybe a year from now, if this thing's up at $110 a share and the numbers keep getting better, the fundamentals keep improving, no reason to sell. But if we're down the road a year and maybe there's some other big factors are beginning to be negative, okay, well, what do we do? In my case, I'd be like, there's a certain point where I need to exit. And sometimes I've exited too early. Sometimes I've exited really in good timing. But probably harder. Sometimes I would think that selling a stock is, that decision is harder than buying it, because you can see discounts on stocks. You see it kind of coming together. Okay, you buy. And then when you're up on a stock, you're like, well, do I sell it or do I keep it forever? It's like, so, but this one here, Lamb, I would say is the type of stock in an industry that I would consider selling it once it reached a certain price target. I'd be like, okay, $110 a share. I'd probably sell a good portion of my shares, unless the news keeps getting better on the stock. Like, oh man, we're experiencing even better growth and more cash and better profitability. That would cause me to keep it. So Scott,
you don't see it as a stock I could sleep on, like to keep it and not watching it for many years. So maybe in a few months I should take a look at analyze it again.
So every quarter, got to look at your stock, right? Especially after their earnings. Now, is it a stock that you can own for the next 10 years? Potentially, yes, maybe. But if you see the stock really rise and the fundamentals maybe are beginning to look not as good, there's less confidence in them. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with taking a gain after a certain point in time, in my book, because I've had stocks that fly up and then they come down. I'm like, geez, I should have sold back a year ago. I kind of felt that it was not going to be as good going forward, so I need to act on it in some cases.